Hello, everyone. You're listening to Truth Cat Radio at truthcatradio.com. The current time is now 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's East Coast, USA. Though I'm broadcasting from Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. My name is Richard Kary, and this is Beyond the Matrix. I would like to also, as we begin, say hello to everyone listening over at Wolf Spirit Radio. We do very much appreciate the extended reach and all the listeners with their simulcast. Thank you to JP. I always appreciate getting all this information out to whoever we can. And as always, I do want to make sure you guys are all aware we are completely listener supported. We don't do any sort of corporate advertising. We don't do any sort of monetizing. All our archives are free. Just put them up on YouTube. You can find them, Truth Cat Radio YouTube channel. I also have one for Beyond the Matrix. A lot of the shows will like to do one as well, of course. But that being said, please do what you can to support us. We're completely listener supported. There are quite a few people who will regularly contribute, and that's just amazing. We wouldn't be here, for as long as we've had a run over a year already. And that would not have been possible without you people. But there are also a bit of gaps, in the bill paying and the funds coming in. A lot of times, those unexpected little amounts from new contributors do make all the difference as well. So we do appreciate, everything we get, as I said, both regularly and spontaneously. If you have a little extra something, please give that, and it is well appreciated. We understand, any little oddball amount is well spent here. We do a lot of our promotion on Facebook, so if you could, please like and share at the Truth Cat Radio Facebook page. We also have a Beyond the Matrix page. I appreciate all those likes and shares as well. And please join our Truth Cats news group. It's an excellent way of sharing a lot of articles. Many of us have utilized that to get everything out there to everyone, to really empower, cross-empower, if you will, in this struggle for humanity, as it were. And tonight we have Jeff Tate once again joining us. Very happy to have him back here. Jeff is the Executive Director, Coordinator, and Editor for the Ministries of 1984 Records Department. Jeff is here today to teach us how to best utilize New Speak and to show us how our slavery truly is freedom. But no, seriously, folks, Jeff is a blogger and longtime analyst in the independent media, corporate media, propaganda, and perceptions within our society. And Jeff is going to join us to discuss this ultra PC culture that we have today, social engineering and conditioning. We're going to attempt an analysis a bit. We're going to consider some of the possible motives of the globalist empire for pushing these agendas, including dispossession, lies, twisted logic, and distractions. So we'll be discussing LGBTXYZ, Wrongthink, and Globalist Totalitarianism. Jeff, welcome back to Beyond the Matrix. Great to have you back on Truth Cat Radio.
G'day, Richard. It's good to be back. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I enjoyed our chat last time. And I think you guys are going in a lot of great directions over there at the Open Mind. Sorry. Yeah. I hope everyone does check it out. We were just discussing its evolution. I don't know if you'd like to mention that story a bit, to the listeners. That you say you've been around about 10 years with all of this.
Yeah, I've been picking up a lot more the last couple of years, but been around for 10 years on YouTube and doing competitions for things, but making videos of many things. If you can find a video about David Icke on my channel, then you're in luck.
And you've got a few people I know working with you behind the scenes there. I don't know, like there are a lot of issues, these days. I know you keep up with a lot of other independent media, even InfoWars. I know you'll keep up with, and that's walking a tightrope for a lot of people out there. But
absolutely,
it's a far cry from what we're subjected to in most of the corporate media. Although a lot of people have really been thrown for a loop lately. Actually, I mean, with this Trump presidency and the stint that Steve Bannon had in the in an appointed position, that somehow opened the door a bit more for Alex Jones there at the White House. It was interesting. I mean, he was giving more respect to him than the corporate media, just because of how they were treating Trump. You couldn't really blame him, but nonetheless, I mean, it has made, as much as we like Trump compared to other establishment presidential options, still, I think it made a lot of people wary for Alex Jones to be quite that cozied up, with the president, no matter who he is, even if he's not establishment. And so I don't know, people were like wondering, well, is Alex trying to just become more a talking head for executive branch or something? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what you've heard out there.
No, it's true. Alex has really gotten big through supporting Trump and what's happened with the election. But he was actually just talking about this last night. He was just saying, oh, sorry, for America, it was today. He was just saying, I've just been covering too much political news, and I want to get back to what's really, really important facing us, like vaccinations and health and the 1984 world that's just appearing around us. So he's said he wants to go back a little bit more to his roots. So, but I know what you're saying. I can understand he's a new big player in mainstream media, and everything new is, well, it's the unknown. So you got to be worried about it. You'd have to be, otherwise you're silly. You got to be cautious of everything. But I think it's definitely Alex's personality. How he's definitely a man's man. He's loud and he's bombastic and he gets angry all the time, but he always brings it back. And if he finds his audience. If people can handle him yelling or being himself all at the same time, then they'll stick with him and listen to him. But I'm excited. I've been a listener of Alex's for at least 10 years, and it's really good for me to see him being listened to by so many people.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I don't know, I guess to help cast a wider net, really, I suppose, the sort of approach that he takes. I mean, there are some topics he doesn't really delve into, and that makes all the difference for some people out there. But I mean,
it's
as far
probably
as
the reason why he's gotten so big, that he doesn't cover every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose if you really want to get people started into waking up to a lot of things, just his approach, like I'm saying, this, especially as we move on more into this technological age. I mean, well, even in marketing of commercials and programs, websites, they expect attention spans to be, what is it, 8 seconds maximum or something like that. And And we have this video game culture. More and more each generation is raised on these things, or even with a little phone in their hand while the parent is doing something, and the kid's not even old enough for grade school yet. But
that's right.
I think it does. Well, it does create a certain sort of. I don't know. I almost worry that it's a handicap at this point for people who are growing up that immersed in that. As we get all this ADD or supposed ADD in the culture, I don't know. I think that they're diagnosing something rather than just treating with conditioning the root cause in a lot of those cases. But I think Alex has an approach for people who wouldn't be able to listen to a lot of these radio stations, don't really have the sort of mind to be just that engaged into just, listening to something while at work or going about their day. And he has, of course, the big studio, a lot of visuals, and just his rants are very animated, to say the least. And
That's
so,
right.
It gets a lot of people, even younger people or people who aren't normally into that many intellectual topics or politics, can reach them as well, who would never turn on, this station or a lot of the other, talk radio, news radio in the independent world. As good as the information is, it takes a while, a lot of times, before people get to the level where they're really into that much. So, I will definitely defend that it serves its purpose. Some people call it a gatekeeper, and making sure here and no further, with information. But I don't know. I think people, once they get into things, they'll look elsewhere. I'm not trying to defend or criticize, if it's possible, in terms of the independent media in this particular case. But that's partially, I think, respect to my guest. I know you do like to support Alex, and I don't really think attacking each other is the best way for any of us. I think the establishment media is far more, the corporate media is far more what should be a target.
Yeah, that's right. And it would only just be entertainment for the establishment media to watch the independent media attack themselves. And then you're not focusing on the real problem. But yeah, that's what it makes me think of when Trump was elected. I couldn't believe that I was supporting a politician. He became one when he got elected. I couldn't believe that I was supporting any politician. I decided a long time ago that there's no hope in politics whatsoever. But so I've been a big follower of Alex Jones and David Icke. So there's lots of like Alex Jones tries to go mainstream, and David Icke is trying to just do whatever he can do. Sometimes he gets on the mainstream media, but a lot of the time he's not in agreement with Alex or the other people that have gotten big after this election. So he's, but I still like him. What I'm trying to explain is I like that someone like David Icke is on the other side of this, thinking that this is all part of the same old rigmarole of the New World Order, laying out their TV show for all of us to watch. So I like having him on the other side, digging away, looking for all the problems that I'm not looking for, while I'm trying to keep up with the Trump administration and what's going on in the US. So I like all the different pockets of independent media that, even if they don't like each other, they need to be able to work together and look at the things that, if I'm not looking at something, then I want someone else looking at that.
Right. And just to I don't know how many people caught your first appearance, but just to remind the listeners, you're in Australia, Perth, Australia.
That's right.
And what part of Australia is that again? I'm sorry, I don't.
No, it's all right. We're in the west. This is the bottom of the westernmost state. They call it the most isolated city in the world, but I'm sure every city's got a slogan that the councillors come up with for advertising.
Nice. So yeah, you're like near the end of winter, right about now.
Yeah, it's just turned spring.
How's it been? I don't know. You don't. There aren't any. Are there some areas with high enough altitudes where you'll get snow in the mountains then over there? Or?
Yeah, in the east there is. I've never seen snow. I've never left. Well, I have left the state, but I've never been to a snowing location. Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, I get my share here in Chicago, and I don't know. It gets old pretty quickly. I'll tell you that. But
well, it's been strange here. Like this winter, the last couple of winters, it's been getting worse and worse. But like, rain is welcome all over Australia, as I'm sure it's welcome. Farming country in America, and you always want rain everywhere. Not too much for flooding, but you want rain. And we've had so many storms and so much rain that it's hard to say, look, I like how we're getting all this water, but this is different. This is not normal. Like it didn't always used to be like this. So much weather, so much storms. So yeah, things are changing. I wouldn't presume to know exactly what's going on with the weather, but I know things are changing, and you keep seeing those trails up in the sky that don't go away. They're not contrails. Well,
yeah, people have definitely been working overtime again with the YouTube uploads since these hurricanes. There are certainly a lot of theories generating right now, just to say the least.
Yeah, and there's too much evidence. There's interviews all over the internet about HARP technology, chemtrails, geoengineering. There's just too much to look for. Like, there's something to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to maybe touch on that a little more, regarding your part of the world, and maybe just also how other things are going in Australia, economically and whatnot. But first, I did want to talk about this primary issue we were discussing in the messaging this past week. There's a lot in politics with the LGBT in Australia right now, right? And same-sex marriage as well. Is that right? What do you know about the same-sex marriage and how most of the Australian population feels about it? I mean, I know the corporate media will say one thing, and then you might have other impressions from social media.
Yeah, well, the corporate media will say, of course, we can't have anyone feeling bullied or anything, so we have to legislate and do whatever we can. Emotions. The same-sex marriage debate has been going on for years and years in Australia, just like everywhere else.
Mm.
It's finally come to they're sending out letters to everyone that's registered to vote, and we can all have our little yes or no box. So we get to say yes or no if we want to change the law to allow same-sex couples to get married. The only problem is I got the letter the other day, and all there is it was that question I just asked you. It doesn't say this is the law that we're going to change it to. It just says, do you want us to change the law? So what it's really asking to me is, do you want dirty, filthy politicians to come up with some new laws that they will point to, and they'll say, you ticked the yes box, you wanted this, you asked for this, even though you didn't know what it was. So this is my problem. We don't know what they're going to change the law to. And you can look at other countries like Canada, and especially with all the Jordan Peterson things that he's been getting into, he's going to their parliament and talking about the laws, and it's just there's too much that they can change the laws to that will affect our society enormously, and all you have to do is read 1984 to find out.
Well, that reminds me of a lot of the legislation passing here in the States as well lately. I think a good example would be with the trade treaties, the TTP and TTIP. They didn't want you to read anything in it.
Yeah.
They wanted everyone to pass it, and then you get to read it. Once we pass it into law.
Who was saying that? Oh, we can't even read it. You have to pass it so we can read it.
Right.
Was that Pelosi? It was one of them.
So yeah,
what a lie.
I don't know if people can even appreciate these novels anymore because we're already there, and they don't really have as much shock value anymore. And you have to put it in the context of, okay, this was written a while back before it got this bad,
Yeah, that's right. But you read it. If you read it now, you'd never read it before. You'd be like, what's the problem here? Like, I know this already.
Right. Yeah. It's just really a fascinating generation that we've been born into, Jeff.
Oh yeah, it's strange. Maybe I think the guy Eric Blair or George Orwell, I think he got the dates right. He seems like he wrote the book around 1948, or he finished it then, and then he just apparently just flipped the numbers. So just for the title 1948, he finished it. So he said, 1984.
Really?
But,
okay. Wow.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
And I never really, brought up much, that whole concept. I know you like the whole reference a lot. You've used it a lot with Facebook and that Ministries of 1984. I posted for the first interview, but we never really addressed it. But why don't you mention to the audience, why it's so important? I mean, I'm sure some could suspect, but in your own words,
I think when I read the book in, I think I was 19, and the biggest thing that stuck with me was how the language that they talk about. What happened was there was a communist takeover, a globalist takeover, really, of the whole world, and the people that were in charge of all the people that were left, they decided, no, we're going to change the language to it's going to be called Newspeak, and they're making all the words shorter and combining words so you can't use them separately. And it sounds strange, and it's like, they're just words, and it's just a different language. But when you realize that there's a reason that the First Amendment exists in America, it's because freedom of speech is really freedom of thought. And if you can't use words, then you will also self-censor your thoughts. So it's shutting down a lot of thought, and if you can't have conversations with people in real life about real things, because they're against the law to talk about, then you're stifling thought, and you're stifling human creativity, and you're basically shutting down the human spirit. And that's why the book 1984 and also the book Brave New World is so scary, is because of what happens when people lose their human spirit. They just don't care what happens to the rest of the world, and then the bad people just get to run amok like they've been doing now.
Right. And yeah, you mentioned it's ultimately just controlling your thoughts, the words you have at your disposal, even in your mind, even if you're not saying them out loud. It just really does show the breadth capable of your thought, and so that just dictates everything, your reality, what you try to accomplish or just give up, before even trying in life. You can see the ramifications are all encompassing there. And so we have this politically correct social justice warrior, ultra politically correct culture now. And, they're just going insane about everything with terminology. We have some places where you need to use this gender neutral pronoun, or else you get penalized and this sort of thing. I mean, I'm hearing all this.
Because you might be bullying someone, so then you're going to get punished.
Even though, I mean, it's really pure projection, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all interpretation. I mean, if this person has issue, there's no reason they should be projecting it onto you and you get blamed by the legal system. But now we're really seeing a strong attack on all aspects of sexuality. It's really getting into everything. I mean, I don't know. I know there are a lot of lobby groups, special interest groups that are paid to really take it to the extreme with a lot of these issues for just a movement as a whole, and sometimes just the publicity, of the organizations. But it really gets to the point where you use the term child abuse, and I think you were not exaggerating at all. Now, for the people who aren't aware of any of this, in Australia right now, they're having a big change that they're trying to get going. They call it the Safe Schools Coalition, and here on their website it says that they're a national network of organizations working with schools to create safer and more inclusive environments for same-sex attracted, intersex, and gender diverse students. Now, wait, here's the kicker: staff and families. Okay, what business do they have? Regarding the staff having to be that, and then they're talking about families. So the families of the staff and students, what business do they have? Even getting that information to begin with. I mean, this is just. Yep. Right off the charts here, so they have to insist that we have, gay instructors, transsexual, transvestite. I don't know.
If you don't have at least one of them on your staff, then you're obviously, bigoted, and you don't want if you haven't hired an LGBTIQ person. That if you don't have any on your staff, then obviously you have had lots of people apply for work with you, but you have declined every single one of them because you're a bigot.
And let's keep in mind the 1984 terminology employed here. I mean, they are referring to this as the Safe Schools Coalition, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, this is going to make everyone safer, I don't know. I guess I don't know what the line of thinking is there, because it's the same thing with those. Was it the line of Target department stores? I think in the U.S. where they had some transgender friendly bathrooms or unisex bathrooms because of the transgender people, and there was a big backlash. I mean, their customer base, a lot of them really turned on them, and we're not happy about that. They're concerned. There are more families who are parents concerned about their kids' safety, and they're worried about any kind of person with questionable sexuality and habits in the same restroom with their child. It's really rather understandable, I mean, but no, they're not caring about the wholesome family values. They're investing in this tiny fraction of a percentage of the population, and that's really what it comes down to when they're using this term safe schools. It's not safe for everyone else. They're trying to say that it'll be more safe for this tiny, minute fraction, but they're also trying to put it on a pedestal, like you're a better person if you take this path that goes against, just your nature for procreation of your species, basically.
That's it. It's a pretty contentious issue. And a lot of people blame religion for it. The way I see Christianity, there's definitely different factions of it, and there's people that want Christianity and religious ideals to be in law, legislated, so everyone has to follow them. And then you definitely have to worry about that. That's not right. You're supposed to have a separation of church and state. But there's other members of the Christian faith that don't want laws brought in to make everyone do what they want. they see it about their ideals are more guidelines, and it's more just accepting and realizing reality. So if you want the human race to keep perpetuating itself into the future, you need men and women to keep procreating together to have children, because that's always been the only way that we have children. So for people that are older and worried, and not worried, you don't have to be worried, but you're invested and involved, especially if you've got your own family, you want to have the world keep going for your children. So I don't have a problem with religious groups, any religious groups that have I'm not sure if they have a problem with homosexuality, but they just recognize that heterosexuality has always been the way that the human race keeps going. So that's one issue that these campaigners for the same-sex marriage cause. They go and attack Christianity, but that's not the only issue.
I'm hearing in America as well now. A lot of programs getting initiated where you have children that are just like 4 years old who are getting questioned about, the idea of possibly choosing the other gender for your.
That's what we're worried about.
Yes. I mean, they're not coming up with this on their own. They're not even old enough to really even understand their own sexuality. You don't even get to puberty until many, many years after that. This is just, I mean, I'm baffled, I mean,
Sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, no. I mean, I've been around enough years already where I'm just dumbfounded by this one. As much as I see from the globalists, this is just a real whopper. But no, please continue.
I can understand why this is being pushed by people in politics, because you have to be an empty soul to be a politician, basically. You have to be looking for anyone to pay you to do whatever they want you to do. And yeah, I'll be a celebrity, and it's basically, how you got you got a face for radio. So people don't. You can be a personality on radio, but not really television. Well, you got a face for politics. You can't really be a famous celebrity in movies, but you can be a politician, and they get paid by people, lobbyists, to further this kind of thing. And one of the main groups is the Greens. We've got them all over the world, but the Greens here, they're the same as everywhere else, and they're definitely pushing for this.
So what else is
you're trying to
your
get out
initial
safe schools.
But what else is your main reaction when I mentioned, a 4-year-old being, having this concept brought up to them about choosing the opposite gender? When of course they would first need more explanation on their own gender, for that matter, right? And so, I mean, how do you respond to that yourself when you hear this sort of thing?
Okay, well, when I hear that, I'm exactly in agreement with you that they're way too young to hear anything about this. It's if you sit a child in front of a Disney movie that's telling them they're a princess, they're going to run around all day saying I'm a princess. Like you can tell a child they're gonna just copy what the adult tells them to say, because they want to be happy and they want to do what they're told, because they want to please their parents so they can all laugh and have a good time in their childhood, because they're little kids. What's going on here is adults who want to change society are using children who don't know what's going on. These are children, you can tell a child what they're going to say. So when people have their own children, then you can tell them all day long what you want them to say, and they will say it. So, but I do agree. I really think it is child abuse to have, especially like if you want to look on YouTube at what they're doing in America, things like having parents. They're doing like big videos, having parents show children dildos, show them how to tell them about masturbating, tell them about sexual things, and the children are going, oh yeah, this is a joke, right? And then by the end of it, they've got their head in their hands, sobbing. What the hell's going on? Why are you saying this to me? This is scary. It is child abuse, and what you're doing is you're opening up a child to sexualization from a young age when they should be protected from that by their parents until they're teenagers, until they're ready for sexualization, which is part of a normal childhood growing up, but it's in adolescence. It's not in pre-adolescence.
And then the most disturbing thing, if that isn't enough, that confusion in those formative years, that can, permanently affect things, of course. But it's getting even beyond that. I mean, they're already doing this now. We already have parents and doctors who are performing, giving hormone drugs and performing sex change operations to children who are not even 10 years old yet.
Yeah, and this is what a government program can do, because what we've done is we've made our society basically automatic. So we grow up, go through school, and we realize that the world is the way it is, and if you don't like it, you need to be quiet, and if you want to work, then you need to go along with what everyone else goes along with. And that's basically, if you work for a corporation, you know that you're just a number, and if you don't do what you're told, then you're fired, basically. And that's exactly how the government is run. Pretty much every government worker knows that if they have a problem with something, they better keep their mouth shut, because otherwise they're going to lose their job, and then they're going to lose their house loan, and then they're going to lose their house, then they're going to live in their car. So what's happened, what I'm saying is we're automatic. You run a program through school, a government program that legislates that you have to ask every child whether if they feel like they're a girl or a boy, or if they're trans, or if they're gay. You just ask them everything and confuse them. And then teachers, even if they don't agree with it, they will do these things to children, like showing them sexual acts when they're younger in classrooms, showing them sex toys, showing them how to masturbate, telling them this is all in the name of avoiding teen pregnancy. So what you should do is you should do fellatio instead of normal sexual relations. It's playing on people's good intentions.
And I know there's a lot of wrong. And I know there's a lot of forced activities traditional to the opposite genders now, like the boys, they'll have cross dress and play dress up and all that sort of thing. For example, I mean,
I'll
grooming.
Come out right now.
A lot of grooming there.
That's right. I mean, I'll come out right now and say when I was playing around with my cousins, most of them were girls, and they used to play dress up. So I put on a dress when I was a younger child, and my family laughed at me, and then I took it off, and everyone forgot about it because they didn't come up to me and say, "Hey, just because you put that dress on once when you were a kid, that means you're probably a woman."
Right, but when they're doing it every day at the schools with everyone as a systematic thing to drill into their heads, and like I said, as if it's not bad enough to permanently, alter them for life, traumatize them, really introducing this confusion about sexuality that they don't understand how to compare normal sexuality yet, but the actual physical. I mean, approval of operation and that sort of thing that's irreversible. Not that the mental isn't enough. That doesn't let you ever turn out quite normal. It's. I mean, I just can't. I can't believe it's being allowed. I was looking more at this website. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking it's all these things, all these topics we're talking about. this is all under. This is all about the debate about same-sex marriage. This is about changing the law to allow all of these things to possibly happen. So people, all the people that are for same-sex marriage, I mean, of course, two people love each other and they're peaceful and they're not doing anything wrong. Of course, they should be able to be together. But it's not about that. That is the emotion that the politicians are using to push this through. This is about all these other things that will come through in the legislation.
And let's remember the terminology. The power of it, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Stopping free thought and stopping creativity, and the human spirit goes down the drain, and you just realize, the whole world's gone nuts, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just gonna shut down and put my head in the sand.
Evidently, LGBT wasn't enough either. I mean,
never enough.
To press on these people, because no, I mean, evidently, the most current term I'm finding when you look it up is LGBTIQ. Now, I almost thought it was a joke when I first saw it. Yep. It's just like, well, this is their IQ or what, But this is a thing. This is what they want now. I'm like, I don't even know what. So here, this is lesbians, gays. Now, I don't see why lesbians can't be gays. You can just call them gays right there, male or female, and cut it out. Okay, so bisexuals, transgenders. Okay, and then we have intersexes. Now, what the blank are intersexes? I mean, this is someone who's what, in the in-between stages of a transition operation, or they're on the fence for a few years, or...
Yeah.
But does this need a category? I mean, if it was still not politically correct enough with this term not in there, is the pretension that I am pointing out here. And then after that, of course, we have the Q. So, okay, that's queers. Now, I'm sure we could have a big 20-minute lecture from someone on the uniqueness of how the word queer and the people who choose to be queer are completely different from both gays or lesbians of any sort. But I say that you could probably use the term gays or queers to refer to male, female, the whole thing. Whoa! I'm sorry about... Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Only at Truthcat Radio, folks. But no, so no, we had to have all these separate words. Now, do you understand the difference between gay and queer, Jeff? Because I'm a little confused.
I don't actually. I'm sure there is. I'm sure you could get a university book now and find about 50 pages on each letter.
And how you would be offensive if you didn't understand them socially, like we are on the radio right now. I mean, we're highly offensive today, Jeff. You realize?
Oh, true. Because just talking about this is making someone that identifies as queer possibly really upset and depressed, and it shouldn't be. And
right,
what they're trying to do is for these people, for these groups of people, they're trying to make the world undepressing and just unhostile. They're trying to make the world just perfect and Disneyland for this, and it's impossible. You can't go through life without becoming depressed about some things, without being angry and sad. That's why we have emotions. We're human beings.
Normalizing. They're trying to normalize this as much of a fraction of a percentage of the people who are out there with these different categories. They're trying to tell us that is far more prevalent, or that it should be in the future. And that is really the disturbing thing. And like you say, a child is told or sees on a film, a princess or a space pilot, and that's what he is all day, after he comes home from the film. It might even not even be relative to the gender sometimes, and he'll be playing, or she'll be playing that all the whole day. And Just giving them hormones and changing their sex. The next day, when they don't want to be the gender you talked them into yesterday, they're still going to be it. I mean, this is serious, folks. This is really
that's a true story in Australia. I'm sure it's happened so many times, but we don't get to hear it. But a few years ago, someone, a woman thought her son was deciding to be a woman, so she started giving her son, a 12-year-old, I believe it was 12 years old, giving her son testosterone replacement therapy or whatever the hell it is, changing his body, and he started growing breasts. His voice sounds feminine. And then a few years later, he decided, oh, wait a sec, I've actually grown up a bit, and I'm not a woman. I am a man. Can we reverse this? And so he's being interviewed on television. He has breasts, and he's saying, I want to reverse this. So now his mother wants to surgically remove the breasts. And what happens when they change their mind next time? Like,
wow.
This is the problem when you tell children, hey, guess what? We can change this about you. Don't you want to be different? They don't even know who they are yet, and you want to tell them that they need to be someone else. It truly is child abuse when you're giving them drugs and changing their biology. And you can't grow a uterus inside a man. That's impossible. So they can't change the body enough to actually turn into a woman so they can have a baby. That's impossible. But we've somehow been convinced that sex change, we can do a proper, full 100% sex change. I don't know how we've been convinced of this. I'm sure it's through television and sitcoms and everything else. But it's impossible. It truly is. But but if there's hate speech laws on the books in your country, then you are possibly going to get prosecuted just for saying facts because they hurt other people's feelings. So then that becomes hate speech. It's not hate speech until somebody makes a complaint, and now all of a sudden it's hate speech. So it's just like Facebook and YouTube. If one or maybe three different people, that's all it takes, make a complaint against you, then you're automatically suspended for a while, and Facebook are going to review you just because of a few people. So that's all it takes, is one person or a few people to complain, and then you're facing the law. You can't legislate bullying. It happens. It's if you want to get rid of bullying, get rid of school. This is what happens when you get all the children and you shove them into a playground, and then you go to lunch. That's what happens.
I am seeing some. I want to after the break discuss this Australian Safe Schools Coalition a bit more, but yeah, I just can confirm already, without looking into it much in America, that they are having similar programs installed. I read one article last week or so. So a lot of libraries were starting to regularly have a transgender, someone who had the sex change, to start regularly doing story time for little kids.
How can you be against that? Like, this is the things they put in front of us. Like, oh, it's just someone dressed up. It's like a clown at a circus.
Well, they wanted to institute
got makeup on.
A whole chain of libraries instituting that it had to be these transgenders. You know, that was the thing. Yeah. That's the thing you really have to ask why. You know, that's very odd.
And it's not about just reading a story from a book. Now it's about, oh hi, this is the transgender speaker we have today. What is transgender? Let's go over that, children, so we can all know what transgenderism is, and then we can read a story to you about cats and dogs.
Oh, I don't think the story is even that simple. I think the stories they read are even about these. Yeah, they're indoctrination. Of course, Jeff. It wouldn't stop there in the globalist order.
It doesn't stop there. I'll just say, I'll read what's on the Greens website here. The Greens Party. Just quickly, one of their organizers, Marshall Gans, is saying the point of the campaign is less to solve everything and more to build power to continue to achieve victories. Legalizing same-sex marriage won't only reduce discrimination, it will give queer organizers a stronger platform to create further change. As we accomplish each objective, we generate new resources that can be applied to achieve the subsequent greater objective. So what they're saying is this is just step one, as usual. If we get a victory in this issue, then we're going to point to this and say, look, this is needed. Now we have all this other stuff that we have to get through because this is civil rights. All these people, the LGBTQIXYZ community, they somehow convinced themselves that they are black people in the 60s, that they need civil rights because they're being oppressed. And it's like, hang on a sec, where has all this come from? You're not oppressed. You're all Australians in this country. You're all Americans in America. You all have the same rights. It's very confusing, and it's politics. It's politics being played against us. They're using our emotions on one topic, and they're going to use it to bring in all these other laws that change the face of our society.
It is about conditioning the lifestyles, just what you can and cannot be subjected to, just slowly over the generations, but this is really strong indoctrination. They're hitting this generation, that's just coming up right now, far more than ours or our parents' generation.
That's always the problem with each generation. The older generation doesn't believe the younger generation of what's going on in school. What's the conditioning that they're all getting, because it was less for the older generation. So they're like, oh, it's not that bad. Come on. I went through it. You can get through it. But no, it's just stepped up immensely since you were at school.
Yeah, no, that is a very good point. That is true, and it should be addressed more. Now with the Common Core textbooks, they don't want the parents looking at them at all. I mean, if that isn't suspicious, I really don't know what is.
Maybe why don't they just get rid of the parent-teacher associations as well?
Right. Yeah.
Get rid of parents altogether.
I'm sure
That's what they're trying.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get rid of those parent-teacher associations pretty soon in the future. The way things are headed, I mean, there's such an attack on homeschooling now because it removes all the indoctrination that they have in place for the new investment.
That's right, and they're not following all the guidelines, the regulations that the government keeps bringing out. Where we are under full attack with compulsory vaccinations in Australia. They are full blown going at it. It's every day something's about compulsory vaccinations and how people are avoiding it, and now they're causing everyone else to get sick. So we have to have you can't go to daycare unless you've been vaccinated. So they're starting just with small things like that. You can't avoid daycare when both parents have to work, because if both parents are working, you have to put your kid in daycare. And now there's rules for daycare. You can't have your kid there unless they're fully vaccinated. And if you're against vaccination, too bad.
Well, looks like we're just about ready to do the break here. If you want to go ahead and mute there, Jeff, do whatever you need to do for about 5 minutes, and we'll come right back. All right, everyone. Well, you are listening to Beyond the Matrix. We're here talking with Jeff Tate. Jeff is the chief blogger and maintainer of The Opened Mind. It can be found at theopenedmind.biz. And you can check out his YouTube channel as well. I would recommend that. I'll have a link provided for it with the video here. I apologize. I can't really give you that right this moment. I believe if you type in The Opened Mind for YouTube, though, you'd get that as well. We will be having the Stephen D. Kelly show coming up in just about an hour here. So stick around, of course, for what Stephen has to bring you as well tonight. And just after a quick break here, we're going to be continuing with Jeff, talking about this topic in hour number 2. Be a little more about the motives of the globalist elite.
Shh.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, hey, anyway, you're listening to Truth Cat Radio, 100% listener-supported radio, www.truthcatradio.com. Thank you very much. And sorry about Graham. Graham had a little emergency, and that's why he was called out. He's on call, and something happens. They call him, and he doesn't know when he's going to get back. And he got back right about 20 minutes before the end of his show. So unfortunately, nothing we could do about that. He was too stressed out to go on. Thankfully, Richard showed up. Anyway, I will be going on with the Stephen D. Kelly show in approximately 1 hour, so I'm sure you will want to stick around for that. And depending on how I feel, we'll determine whether or not we want to do any after hours tonight. Richard, I don't know, you weren't here last week, but if you're up for it, we'll give it a shot tonight. But stick around. When we come back on Monday, we'll have Shima Moore at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we do have another show starting here real soon, but I'm waiting for her to... she's actually running some advertising. Let me see. When is she going to... Yeah, she is going to start on, I believe, right after Shima and it's going to be called Synergy Hour with Anna Anthony, and that's at 10 p.m. Eastern on Monday. And that'll be our prime time for our Metaphysical Monday. And, of course, Daryl comes back on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern with the Daryl Show, and Dave Robbins with Mystic Freedom is on at 10 p.m. Eastern. And Wednesday at 10 p.m. is Freedom of Joyce with Terry Joyce. That is Grace in the background. Thinks she needs to be talking. And we want to remind you guys that, yeah, we are 100% listener supported. So if you can drop something in our PayPal, we would really appreciate it. Help us pay our bills. And the PayPal, of course, is StephenKelly714@gmail.com. And that information is on our main website at www.truthcat.com underneath the button that says Support Us. And there's also an address on there. So if you don't like using PayPal and you just like to send a message or a attaboy in a little piece of paper or something, we'll accept that. You can do that. But right next to that button is another one that says Chat. So if you'd like to register a screen name and go in there and become part of the chat room and say hello, we would appreciate that. And that's a great way of interacting with the show. Also, if you want to interact directly, you can call in at 714-598-3125. That's area code 714-598-3125. And if for some reason you need to connect via Skype, you can send me a contact request to Stephen D. Kelly. Make sure you say that you are wanting to go on the show, and I will connect you right away. And also, if you're listening to the show right now on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and a nice comment and share it on your Facebook. And when you're on Facebook, go join the Truth Cat Radio page. If you have not done that yet, just go give it a like, and then you can help us out by sharing the advertisements that we put out for the various shows like this one here, Beyond the Matrix, and that helps us gain listeners. All right, so if you would do that, we would really appreciate it. And once again, this is Truth Cat Radio. It is September 14th, 2007. You're listening to Beyond the Matrix with Richard Kary. Thank you very much.
And welcome back. Thank you to all the listeners who stuck around. That includes, of course, the listeners over at Wolf Spirit Radio. Thank you once again to JP for the simulcast. And yes, please help out the station with whatever you can. And we do appreciate those likes and shares. It does help, as Facebook is the primary the primary way we try to promote a lot of our shows here. Well, tonight we're discussing the Australian Safe Schools Coalition and just a lot of the sexualization programs that are being implemented in our schools and even in a lot of the public community functions such as the libraries, not just in Australia, but we're seeing this in America, over in the UK and Europe. And was actually reading a bit earlier from the website, the Australian Safe Schools Coalition official website. Like I was mentioning a bit of who they are earlier and just the mission. Once again, the Safe Schools Coalition Australia is a national network of organizations working with schools to create safer and more inclusive environments for same-sex attracted, intersex, and gender diverse students, staff, and families. Okay, so they're really socially engineering everything for you to make sure everything is equally represented in their utopia. The Foundation for Young Australians is the national conveyor of Safe Schools Coalition Australia and has partnered with experienced organizations across the country to provide direct support for schools. Just the terminology, Safe Schools Coalition, is just certainly in the interest of the few rather than the interest of the many who would not be following any of these paths and are the majority who are in the schools of Australia. But no, the Australian school system, like here in America, certainly has ulterior motives and directives from above, basically, pretty much out of their control. Are you back with us there, Jeff?
Yeah, I've been listening. I've got my coffee ready.
Excellent. I got this other page up now, what we do. Okay, we heard about who we are. Now, what we do for the Safe Schools Coalition. Australian schools are doing great things around the country to be welcoming and safe for the whole school community. Safe Schools Coalition Australia works with schools to help them with those efforts. Wow, they're just some wonderful chaps, aren't they? Safe Schools.
Just want to
help. Safe Schools Coalition Australia offers a suite of free resources and support to equip school staff with knowledge, skills, and practical ideas to create safer and more inclusive school environments for same-sex attracted, intersex, and gender diverse students, staff, and families. I mean, a lot of it is the same wording from the first page, but they just need enough content, I guess, for, a few things to click on and a decent website, We work together with schools from a range of diverse contexts to tailor support that meets the needs of their school community. This includes government and independent schools, schools in diverse geographic locations, and faith-based schools. So they really want to get their foot in the door everywhere to just change the structure, really, to support these demographics. I mean, what if they don't have enough of these sort of people, though, right? And I guess that's where the indoctrination comes in. They put it in enough young minds so that in a few years there will be plenty.
That's
to
right.
staff the school.
Hey, if you want to look at Alex Jones's little meme that he's got with the putting chemicals in the water to turn the frogs gay, you gotta wonder, like, if there's such a chemical that can affect your biology, and they're doing it with testosterone replacement therapy. So is there another chemical that can affect your sexual wants and needs. Who knows? But he's trying to say there's a possibility to it. So no, there's so many things to go across. If you're legislating teachers to always worry about what children, what sexual orientation they are, then if you have to always remember in class while you're talking to say disclaimers or something, so if you bring up a particular topic, then you have to also say, and for people who are LGBTQI, what this means for them is this. So now you got to have two different explanations for every issue, every topic that comes up in class. And now it's just going to be focused fully on equality and diversity and stopping bullying. But that's all you're going to be taught. There's no time for anything else because you're always catching yourself up going, oh, what about, I've just bullied one person in the whole world, so I need to go over all this again and explain myself all over again. Otherwise, that person might get very depressed and might do something nasty to themselves. That's the whole reason all of this is happening. Because we're worried about people and getting depressed and doing something to themselves. And it's basically, that's an issue that all of our children face, especially with, so this is just one political program that's trying to change school and the way things are taught. But political programs have been brought in for decades and decades, changing school and making it worse and worse. And children are bullied all throughout school. And if the people that don't get bullied, they are the ones that put their head down and just go along with everything and don't ask questions. So bullying is rampant in school, and to me, it comes from the teachers, because you need to keep control of your children, your students, and your group psychology. That's what you use against them. So you're bullying students to stay in line. So that's the teachers doing it. And now you're trying to legislate children should not be allowed to bully anyone else. It's against the law. But you're chucking all of children, you're taking them off their parents and putting them into a school. And so you've only got one teacher at the front of the class. How are you supposed to teach these? How are you supposed to be involved with your child? And I've got a lot of views about school. I don't agree with it very much, Richard.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do think there's a lot more one can accomplish with homeschooling. You take out all of the indoctrination. You can focus on, learning, the truth about history or really applicable science or even even home economics, anything, just in a more applicable way. A lot of the traditional workshop type things where you actually learn a skill are taken out more and more. High schools, you used to have automotive class. That's all gone now. But the newer cars, of course, with the warranty and all the computers in it, you can't even get under the hood anymore. It's so everything is working against us more and more. And yeah, we're less and less empowered in any way when we come out of the school system these days. It's just all about the indoctrination more than anything.
Because what can happen to you if you don't worry about this, then someone might get upset with something you say, and then you could get in big trouble. People are worried about losing their jobs and losing their houses. So that's the problem. That's not the way you get people to be tolerant. People hate being told what to do under punishment, threat of punishment. That's not how you get people to understand your way of life and your views. You don't legislate things. That's what the Nazis tried to do, and force everyone to be the way they wanted.
Oh yeah, we saw that in a lot of countries for different motives. Yeah, Hitler he had the book burning, and I think even though he did a lot of great things for Germany, that's one thing a lot of people, even people who supported a lot of the things he changed for Germany at that time, definitely were against. Look at Soviet Union. That's a very strong example of the people and information being repressed. There was one other story, Jeff, that I wanted to mention along with the Safe Schools Coalition. I mentioned the library hour. And, yeah, I found the actual article relating to it. In the U.S. here, they're calling it Drag Queen Story Hour. And yeah, it just says Drag Queen Story Hour is just what it sounds like. Drag queens reading stories to children in libraries, schools, and bookstores. And then over in the UK, I see that there's a group that's trying to get something similar started. They were very happy or impressed, I guess, with the U.S. doing this. And so now in the UK, yeah, they're trying to start something similar.
Well, it's the UN program, really.
Mhm.
So we're all signed up to the treaties with the UN, and we have to do it.
In lockstep, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. But see the brilliance of this political campaign that they've got. We can't even talk about transgender book. What was it called again?
Well, let's see. In the U.S., Drag Queen Story Hour, and now in the U.K., yeah, they're calling it Drag Queen Story Time.
Yeah.
To embrace, urge kids to embrace transgenderism. They're actually saying as a goal, okay, not just a person like telling a story.
It's not about reading just reading normal anything to do with childhood stories to children. It's about a political agenda. It's about a drag queen going to a group of children and talking about themselves and how they're a drag queen. And it's like the children are like, well, this is a person who's dressed up. I can see all the makeup on your face. You're dressed up. That's all they know. They don't know what you're talking about by being a drag queen.
Right.
They need to grow up first and find out what they are. That's what childhood's for. We don't just come out of the womb as an adult. You need to grow up and learn the basics of life first. And then when you get older, then you start realizing that there's all these different mindsets that you can be. But it's a mindset. It's people are looking at the way their mindset is and thinking that their body needs to change and then everything will be better.
Well, yeah, we also have a lot of these programs that cater to people with these alternative sexualities or lifestyles, as they call it, and it really is a lot of coddling, isn't it?
True. And how alternative is your lifestyle? Do you live on the moon? No, you live in our society, the same one that everyone else lives in. Like your lifestyle's not alternative. What that brings to mind is the deviant things that people get up to sexually with leather and whips. That's probably what people mean. I'm so different. I live an alternative lifestyle. But no, you're not different. You're a human. We're all humans. And the West is about humans living in freedom. You don't live in the Middle East. You don't live in Soviet Russia. You live in the free West, and you're supposed to. Well, you can live the life that you want to live. The only problem is if you want to hurt someone else, we have laws to stop you from doing that, because people are free to live without being attacked. But somehow we've been convinced that there's people in our society that are being oppressed, and we're being racist to them, we're being sexist, and basically all it is children going to university and college and learning that their rebellious phase is actually real, and the whole world needs to listen to you because you're what they're latching on to is a adolescent rebellious phase of rebelling against the world, rebelling against all the rules you've had to follow as a kid, and you're going to become your own person. But they're latching on and hijacking that phase and saying, no, it's the whole world that needs to change. It's not you that needs to adapt to society and live life your own way. It's the whole world needs to change. And we need to tell everyone what to do. Otherwise, if we don't tell everyone what to do, then we'll end up with Nazi Germany again. That's the thinking. I even understand it, but that is the emotion that people get to.
Well, actually, I mean, with all this repression and freedom of speech, I mean, it's I mean,
but we have to suppress speech, otherwise people will be Nazis. Sorry.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, enslave the people to give them freedom, or go to war for peace. That's the thinking with this attack on freedom of speech. Though we have these groups like Antifa, supposedly against anti-fascism, and if you ask them what fascism is, the best thing they would say is just some sort of totalitarian control. And look at that's exactly what they are doing with trying to stop freedom of speech, not let the other side even speak out. But of course, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, these groups are able to speak. They don't want the opposition to speak because they're the ones who are being these, totalitarian tyrants. Antifa. I mean, come on, it's complete hypocrisy there,
That's
but I mean,
it's taught.
But these are like Soros funded, a lot of these things. So I mean, there's definitely a strong agenda. I'd be pushing things like this transgender and alternative sexuality, confuse people, make them just so at odds just to try to live a normal life and be confused about who they are. They can't at all have time to focus on the corruption out there. I think that's a big part of it. And then I think the Western culture, there's an attack on it very strongly. We see these double standards that are getting a bit extreme as far as inequalities among the races, treatment in media, and what's allowed to be said. You can call out for white genocide these days, and it's approved. And we have. So I mean, there's a very strong attack on Western culture, and then the white male represents that. There's definitely a strong criticism in the culture, in the entertainment industry, and everything to reinforce something negative toward that, and it's just make sure to show females and people of other races in all of the lead roles and heroic roles. Positive role models, anything but the white male. I think that combined with the persuasion of the youth towards sexuality can really affect, the population levels. There's a lot of talk about, I mean, a lot of the elites are trying to, even on a racial level, attack us one race at a time. They'll get to everyone, don't worry, but, surely the Western world is, they're trying to bring everyone down, with the austerity in the EU. That's clear as well. And then, later perhaps, Russia and China, which right now are becoming the stronger economic sphere. Perhaps later those people will be dealt with, but they're already being indoctrinated in such a collective fashion that maybe they won't need to be dealt with as much. So, the Western the Western culture, I think, is big on the elite's agenda there.
Yeah, and there's a system been set up to indoctrinate children everywhere. It's called school. Like I know there's a lot of good things that can come from school, but to me personally, I'm against it. I don't have a solution for everyone. That's the problem. But for me, I would be definitely homeschooling my children, my future children. But the thing is, there's a system set up now that we take children for 12 years of their life, or I'm not sure, there's probably 13, 14, gets younger and younger now, kindergarten. But if there's a system and it's automated, so all you have to do is change the curriculum and the teachers will teach it, because teachers aren't allowed to teach what they think. It's the curriculum, and it's nothing but the curriculum. And who writes the curriculum? The government does. So, or you can change the curriculum through the government, and then all of a sudden you're producing all these children that think the way that your program thinks. And that's the way I see it. So if you've got, it's about captivity. You got children in a classroom all day long, and if you're just saying this propaganda to them, that's all they're going to know. Our society's automated, so we need to break from the system. I like systems. I'm not against systems. I'm not complete anarchy. I don't like that. I like having small government because we need a defense force, because we need things, infrastructure, transport, things like that. But full communism is what people are worried about. So this is government programs going off the Richter scale, and they need to be curtailed fully. And hopefully in Australia, with our yes or no vote, we're going to vote no and chuck this politically correct cultural Marxism agenda back down the road where it came from, even though it'll be coming back. I think this is the 10th time we've had this come up in the last 10 years. And never go away. But it's so powerful because why don't you want someone to not be bullied? Why don't you want people to be safe at school? That's their argument. It's all emotions. And it's like, of course I don't want people to be bullied. Of course I don't want that. But this is politicians saying one thing, and they're going to bring in socialist agendas.
You also have to realize they're going to be in for quite a culture shock too when they get out in the real world, and they realize that there isn't a safe space. So I mean, I don't know. I think that they're better off with not having this artificial social layer added to the school's atmosphere. Really,
you can go to uni and have that safe space bubble all the way up till your 30s or your 40s. Mm-hmm. And then you come out of university, then you look at Bernie Sanders. He doesn't know how the world works.
I'm trying to bring up this other article to read a little more. And I was mentioning, after the one story time in the U.S. was so impressive, such a hit. They mentioned a young gay man in Bristol, UK, is seeking to emulate the Drag Queen Story Hour project that had been going on in the United States. He has launched Drag Queen Story Time, which currently has 30 drag queens to read aloud feminist fairy tales and gender-fluid novels for young children. Okay? That's a quote. For me, the project is about drag queens providing fun and inclusive reading for children about issues around misogyny, homophobia, racism, LGBTQ, they forgot the I, and gender fluidity in a way which they can understand. Tom Karam, a 25-year-old call center employee and the founder. So yeah, that. What do you say, Jeff? This is really going to be more popular before it dies out, I think.
Well, this is how people get work without working. I'm an LGBTQI activist, and I go and spread I call it propaganda, but they would call it the truth. I go and speak the truth to children, and that's their job now. So they've created their own job, paid by the government, because you can get funding for this. This is another big thing. You can set up big organizations now, you can get government funding for this, because there should be, there should be advocates for this. So it's never ending. But there's I've got to try again to say that no one's against drag queens, no one's against transgender people. There's just not that many of them.
Right.
And
they'll figure it out for themselves. They'll know what they are without anyone needing to explain it to them once they've passed puberty and the normal routes didn't work out. And they'll seek out this information or people to inform them in the right time.
That's right. This is actually condescending to people that are LGBTQI. This is saying even you won't be able to handle living in society because you're so precious and you're so different.
Technically, I think it's IQ, but go ahead. We don't want to offend. No, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's it. It could be the law to put those letters in the right order. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Wrong think there, Jeff. Come on.
Yeah. Nope. And it's funny. It's so close to that book, 1984. Like, it's or actually, I like that book because I think the author was a good guy, and he was trying to warn people. But if you look at the other book that was before that, actually, 10 years before that, called Brave New World, that one is the scary one. That one's the one written by the elite, the Aldous Huxley. He was the author. His brother, Julian Huxley, was a big UN guy. He was the one running all these programs. Also, this is what Alex Jones was talking about last night, the UNESCO programs of the UN that dictate the curriculums to the schools, to the universities. It all comes from the UN. And the guys that are running the programs at the UN, the same guys were writing these books. So Brave New World is a scary book where people don't have children naturally anymore. It's all in laboratories. And when you're born in a test tube, you're automatically given a designation of what your job's going to be in the future. You're bred for this. You're born for this. And society, it looks just like, in the name of equality and diversity, everyone needs to conform to these set of rules. And if you step out of line, then you're most probably trying to hurt someone. And everyone goes along with it. They're worth reading, those books, because you just see the world as it is today. And even Antifa, they are so deluded that they think that they're doing the things that George Orwell, the writer of 1984, would approve of. We're against fascism, and so was he. And he fought with the communists in Spain, or was it social? I think it was communism. He fought with them over in Spain, so he's obviously a communist, and that's what Antifa have become, fascist and communist. But they see themselves as in line with that book, and they probably haven't even read the book. It's probably a red pill for Antifa. If they read 1984, they would find out that, they're kind of being used as the weapon.
Yeah, certainly would be good for more of these people to look into these sort of tactics. Perhaps we could get more people, truly awake, and instead of this co-opted awake. A lot of people out there are
woke.
There's a lot of infighting in the independent media. There's so many. I don't know. I'd almost call them like sub-genres of the independent media. Of course, depending on where someone's focus lies.
Yeah.
But there's definitely just a lot a lot to be said, I think, though, from drawing from multiple sources and making your own final conclusions. But there's definitely a lot of I think a lot of focus on the wrong things. Like sometimes just how is not as important as why, especially when you talk about a lot of these incidents. The why it happened, or why are we supposed to think it happened, like it's presented, is usually far more important than the details of how exactly did this happen, and let's analyze it more. And is that the same person or object as in this other photograph from 2 seconds earlier, and and this and that.
Yeah, I think that might come from where, back to school for me, I think that we're taught that the world is run by people. They're good people where it's all of us, but this is the way the world's run. This is the rules, and you need to abide them. And if you disagree with them, you're going to get detention, you're going to get in trouble, suspension, you're going to just have people in your face telling you off, you're in trouble, you're wrong, until you agree with them. That's what school is for. School is for detention for the bad kids that don't just go along with everything they're told. So we come out of school and we're going, well, there's nothing I can do about anything. This is the way the world is. Whatever they say on the news, I just have to go along with it. They just put their announcements out. This is what we're going to change the law to. Okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's totally wrong, but that's what school is for, to make you think that you're nothing. You're just here to be told what to do.
I mean, if someone can escape the indoctrination, perhaps with people from their friends and family, helping them out a bit, of course, so that they can take the good and leave the rest, so that they can continue, self-educating, outside of that system. I mean, there are some things, of course, from initial schooling that people can gain, but yeah, it's so much more focused on the indoctrination from this point of view of the system. And yeah, that's really, I think, what we're trying to convey to people. Yeah, I mean, but this is definitely, regarding the sexuality, I think, a way of keeping people confused, and keeping them from as much concentrated sustaining, really, of the different local peoples of the planet as well, as far as just population levels at the same time. But I don't know, I think more fundamentally it's about, just confusing the traditional roles, to try to break up society, keep a lot of people more at odds with each other's beliefs and lifestyles, and it is a convenient distraction away from further encroaching totalitarianism. I mean, they're trying to change so many laws now. They want a UN army, all these things, where once some of these things are in place, it could be a lot harder to get away from them. I don't like to speak too much in a paranoid tongue, but I mean, I know a lot of people will be aware of these as legitimate concerns. I mean, I know we were talking about Alex Jones in the first hour. He certainly does his share of worrying about that big crackdown. Even people from the past, such as like William Cooper, he was always afraid that someday, perhaps on a national holiday, they'd all come for the Patriots, and round up the most likely resistors, and then the big FEMA day arrives, right?
And unfortunately, it worked out so bad for him, because he was so worried about it that when 9/11 happened, he thought that was it. It was all happening right then.
Right.
And then so there were law enforcement in his town that wanted to come and investigate his property, because there were things happening, like William Cooper had apparently threatened somebody who came to his house, and said, "Get the hell out of here," and pointed a gun at him. So then the law enforcement wanted to come and talk to him, but they all knew that he wasn't going to let anyone on his property, so they all came with a SWAT team, and they met him at the front of his property, and he ended up shooting one of them, and then they shot him. That was the paranoia, but it's so understandable, especially for him who's come from inside the military. He said he's read all these intelligence reports, so he knew that it was true what was going on. He just didn't know that it wasn't the big end of the world FEMA's coming to round everyone up right then and there, but he thought that was it, and he pulled the trigger. So that's so dangerous.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you have to wonder about these things. That's what Alex Jones is always focused on. He's always focused on the end of the line. What could happen? The worst possible thing. So that's why people will say he's scaremongering. But if you don't like fearmongering and scaremongering, then you need to listen to another show. These are the people who are worried about that and who do want to focus on that. Yeah.
Right.
And actually, I just want to mention a couple of YouTube channels that are really good in Australia. There's a channel called Jam Phase, JAM for Mary, FAZE. Oh, sorry, ZE. He's really good for going over the Safe Schools Coalition, and actually Islam in Australia is very, very good at that, commentating. And another voice of reason on YouTube is someone named Gary Awesome. Gary, ORSUM for Mary. So if anyone's interested in Australian politics or topics that definitely reflect the rest of the world, you can look up those channels. They're really informative. I just wanted to let your listeners know that there's some more information out there.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of the listeners are always looking to, to hear a different perspective, add a new perspective every once in a while, maybe become a regular listener to a few along the way, like how it is for so many of us. So yeah, no, much appreciated. I do think it's good, for a variety of sources for all of us. And I can't stress that enough, along with us really being the person who makes the final call, with a lot of these things. So we want to look at a lot of information from multiple sources on a topic. And you really, if you don't have the time to, and confidence in your own ability to analyze and to decide, what you're going to think, rather than looking for the perfect, YouTube channel or blogger who's going to give all the correct answers to you, then you really shouldn't really be looking into these topics, because that doesn't exist. You're not going to find, and everyone out there, even the ones who mostly have correct information, every one of those will have at least something you could point out that, maybe they're not quite correct, or I agree completely with this or that.
There is one answer to that problem. The answer to that problem is make your own channel. And then everything you say is what you agree with.
Exactly. And tunnel vision works. No, but seriously, as many voices out there as possible. I mean, if everyone, just like about politics, if everyone were involved in politics, everyone were running for some sort of local or state office, and everyone were doing journalism, doing their own radio shows, websites, blogging, all this sort of thing, everyone were involved in that, it would be just, really difficult to pull the wool over the masses' eyes in any locality. The elite would not have such power. I really think these topics, aren't very popular, Jeff. I don't know how much you've noticed that, but a lot of people are not.
You look at YouTube and things, and you see the dismal views that people get on these topics.
Well, I just also know that there's the social media aspect, internet aspect, that is where, there's a community around the globe for any topic, but as far as in any locality, let's say we lose our internet connections. I mean, locally, percentage-wise, most people, are into other things. They're into hanging out at the clubs, socializing, and sports, and action films and this and that. Sci-fi films, fantasy, but not so much. A lot of these topics like social engineering and politics and independent news. I mean, I'm just saying, the population as a whole, if they were into it more as just something that they could enjoy, they'd be less able to be preyed upon.
That's it. But you get detention at school for asking questions, so it's much easier just to focus on something else like sport.
Yeah,
that's why I like. That's why I made my own channel, because I just want to put my view out there, and hopefully some people will comment and write back to me and tell me what they think about my view, and then I can work together and go through the conversation and have a discussion. Like that's the thing that I do. If you want to look at the mental illness that is my channel, you can look up the hashtag the Chardonnay Times. That song Chardonnay, the national anthem of Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, the Chardonnay Times. If you want to look that up, there's plenty of wondering about what the hell this guy's going through.
And then there's also, of course, the opened mind, right? Or is that the name of the YouTube as well?
That's the name of my YouTube channel, and on Facebook, and we're pretty much Twitter, the minds.com, gab.ai. Yeah, it's on everywhere. But if you look for the hashtag, the Chardonnay Times, then you'll find it.
Okay. And then also the openedmind.biz, right?
Yep, that's the website landing page.
Excellent.
It's social media gets updated a lot more than that website at the moment, but I think we're gonna be. A few of my mates are finally getting back up. 10 years ago, we were really, really active, but now we're getting active again, and so lots of things are going to start happening.
Regrouping. That sounds great. All right. Well, everyone, keep an eye on everything that they're doing over there, and more to come. And of course, you can be contacted. Anyone who wants to get in touch or collaborate, be contacted through those sites as well. We have about 10, maybe 14 minutes left, so I don't know. We could continue with a little different direction, or I don't know if you had more to say on the sexualization in the schools, or.
Well, it's worrying. It's just quickly, because it's a huge subject. You can't stop talking about it, but there's people are worried that there's bad people that have become high up in government, people that are pedophiles, people that have really they are being blackmailed because of the things that they like to do in their personal time, which is if it was out on the public stage, then they would lose their political influence, and they wouldn't be a politician anymore. So they're being blackmailed to do things that they might not want to do. But that's the type of people that you want in politics, so you can blackmail them and threaten them and make them do what you want them to do. So that's my problem. I think that there's too many people like that, and they're being paid and pushed to bring in things that are, you can only call it child abuse. That's all. That's what it is. Yeah. So
and you mentioned the blackmail as well. there were some in the independent media when the whole Pizzagate thing came around who were saying don't cover it. It's a trap. They're gonna
I think it was.
debunk some things and then make you look bad. And I mean there were what were you gonna say to add to that? You think it was?
Well, no, I think you're right. Well, that is what was going on with Pizzagate, but the reason why Reddit went off and anyone in independent media went off is because these things are true. They do happen. It might not have happened in this specific case, but it became a hashtag and an issue that we could get the information out. There was an explosion of information after Pizzagate broke, but it ended up being all about this one little pizza place that had nothing to do with anything, and then someone went in there with a gun, and that was the end of that. Now we're all crazy people with guns. That's what the whole point was. Mm-hmm. But when if you're on Reddit, if you go to the Donald on Reddit, it's a subreddit. They have like 400,000 subscribers, and back when the WikiLeaks were first coming out during the election, you want to talk about artificial intelligence and AI. This is human intelligence. This was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the internet trolling, TRAWL, trolling through all these emails, looking for the evidence, and we posted the worst emails up on Reddit, and it became so popular, and then Pizzagate came about, and then it all went, oh, don't want anything to do with people with guns going crazy. So yeah, but there is something to pedophilia in politics, and the amazing numbers of pedophilia that is going on. It is rampant and it's hidden, and that's why Pizzagate exploded, because there's people that are just itching to get this information out, and it's so hard. People don't want to ever talk about this subject because it's horrible.
Mm-hmm. And you made me think of another thing that was just revealed when you brought up WikiLeaks. I hear they're trying to pass legislation tying WikiLeaks to terrorist organization to be able to censor it. Just one more step in trying to start getting some things going with censoring parts of the internet. Just start stepping on freedom of speech a little bit here and there, so that it'll just become a little more commonplace. We won't really notice how many times it's implemented in the future that way. So I mean,
we won't notice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's internet algorithms that we can't see. It's in the book 1984 that the main character worked at the Ministry of Truth, and his job was to go through old newspapers, and anything that disagreed with what the government was saying today, he took those newspaper articles, cut them out of the newspaper, and threw them down the memory hole, which was an incinerator. So those newspapers were gone, history was rewritten. So they've gone from physical newspapers to computers in the book. So he's typing the new article, and he's putting the old date on it. And now, when anyone that nowadays goes and looks back at the old newspapers, they've got these articles, but someone has written it like that week. So it's the memory hole, and that was envisioned in the 1940s, before all the computers came out. So now it's much more sophisticated. We've got algorithms on Facebook that you don't even know what they're doing because it's invisible. So if they can put you in little ghettos and circles, echo chambers, where you don't get out to anyone else and no one else gets into you, and you think you're talking to the world, but you're just talking to like a small group of people who all think the same. We've all been shoved into the same corner of the internet where no one else can hear us.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing I have with social media. I think we need like one ultimate, complete freeware, peer-to-peer social media. That just just completely cuts out the controller. Almost kind of like the way Skype was originally made, but to replace Facebook and Twitter. I mean, we have good alternatives out there that are supposedly not tracking you and not censoring you as much. The ones that have been catching on the most so far, to replace Facebook, the one that's been the most popular has been Scene Life. That's SEENLIFE. And, I recommend people try it out. With a little work, you can build friends on there. It works a little easier. You'll see there's a lot less tracking of you and ads, and just all the extra little things that Facebook added over the years are not there. It really seems like a good thing. It's just a matter of building your friends. It could take a bit of time, but it is possible. And once you could, I could see Scene Life being very powerful. And then there's one replacing Twitter. The most popular one, not censored, is Gab, G-A-B. I recommend people check that out likewise, but I actually haven't been able to explore that as much yet to have really any feedback.
They look like they're going really well. And like the CEO is getting interviewed by Tucker Carlson on Fox News. So he's breaking into the mainstream. He really is taking it to Twitter and trying to become the alternative. That's why I like Reddit. Reddit is still only pretty much the Donald subreddit because it's been isolated from the rest of Reddit because it got so many users that they can't just shut it down because all those users will just say, nah, stuff you, Reddit. I'm not using Reddit anymore. So they don't want to lose those users, but they don't want the Donald on there. So they've shoved that into its own corner where it doesn't really affect the rest of Reddit. But the way Reddit works, I like that freedom. But yeah, I think what you say, the peer-to-peer way, like the way torrents work, that's definitely the way, that we need to look at.
Yeah, and something that just will definitely have everyone just automatically have a profile. I mean, the most frustrating thing at this point is that, you can't find everyone from other social media on any given platform anymore. You have some people who
they're all competing.
Yeah, there's some Twitter people, Facebook now, like Scene Life, Gab. We have others out there. Steven created an excellent one, Occupy the Getty. That he'd been building, along with the Truth Cat Radio. There's LinkedIn. A lot of people with professional business profiles will use LinkedIn. I've never myself. There's that Google Plus now that just kind of auto generates and tries to get everyone to use it with its algorithms. It's a little annoying.
You can't escape it if you.
Yeah, but you don't have everyone in any one of those, and to have a truly peer-to-peer one, that way if everyone's going to invest in being on it, they know that they're not going to be screwed over in the long run. It's not going to get sold, to Soros later on or something. The company. So,
like what happened to YouTube?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of these companies, they'll change hands. So the peer-to-peer thing could be a very important aspect. Maybe a group of people could get together in the future and work on that. We need something that could expand internationally with different languages and translations, but just something that could really empower people where it would catch on. Everyone would want to download it because they know it was in their best interest. It wouldn't take too much to design, when you find the right programmers who appreciate the kind of values, principles we have behind this. But it's been a pleasure having you on again, Jeff. We'll definitely have to chat again. Any last words for the listener?
I enjoyed it immensely. Yeah, thanks a lot, Richard. And thanks to Stephen too for having me on. I just want to say one thing about all this, the thing that's going with Trump right now. About the he's thinking about giving amnesty to the dreamers, the illegal immigrants in America, and not building the wall like the way it's said. But I think I just want to say at this point in time that he's going through negotiations. If you want to look at the art of the deal, he's using the public sphere to get what he wants through this deal. So I'm just saying, have a bit of faith in our God Emperor for a little bit longer.
All right, sounds good. Well, we'll definitely chat again soon. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll keep in touch. And everyone, stick around for the Stephen D. Kelly Show. Until next time, transcend the construct. Regards.